As we got deep into February of this year, my film brain started to feel unsatisfied, and I started to get a little FOMO because I'd not seen a single 2024 movie throughout all of January. I was ready to give up my title. I had to turn in my badge. I was watching nothing. And just at the right time, a movie called Argylle started to pop up on my Twitter timeline. People started making jokes about the real Agent Argylle, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Then I saw discussing film spoil the big twist of the movie for no reason, and I started to get an idea of what was going on. And finally, I saw the reception, which you shouldn't always take super seriously, but it was bad. It was actually quite bad, and that got me more excited. Kicking off the year with a confusing and terrible spy comedy flick with ridiculous twists and an even more ridiculous cast? Sign me up, that sounds fun. Speaking of the cast, I actually forgot most of these people were in this movie. I quickly copied and posted the poster of the movie on Twitter to say, now watching, but didn't actually look at it and realize I'd seen it months ago. And so, each and every time, I was thrown off by the appearances. John Cena, then Bryan Cranston, then Samuel L. Jackson? What the hell is going on? That was basically my main thought for this whole movie though, because it's just incomprehensible. There's a bizarre dancing/fighting sequence that also might not be real, a hypnotizing sequence that has the funniest editing I've seen in a very long time. So with all this goofy shit going on, Argylle becomes the year's first funny bad movie, and honestly, that's a compliment. But there was so much more to say, so get out of here while you still can, because I'll be spoiling a lot in this video. 3, 2, 1, and they're gone. Let's start. Definitely the biggest topic of discussion with this movie is the storyline, as it is jam-packed with some wild writing choices. So our main character is Ellie Conway, an author famous for writing the Argylle books, and she's currently on book 5. While Ellie is on a train to see her mom, a crazy bearded man goes ballistic on the people on the train who he says are agents from this real-life version of her book's network and are trying to kill her for information. I don't fully understand why the network wouldn't just send one guy on a suicide mission to kill her in broad daylight considering the threat she poses, but hey, I'm no crime boss. After that, blah blah blah, there's a bunch of plot with not much to criticize where the two of them bond. There are actually 2 things I want to bring up from this section. The first is actually super important, it's kind of the main plot, and that's that Ellie's books predict the future of the organization in real life. You might think that this has to make for some confusing moments along the way, and you'd be right, but it's hard to find real issues with this piece because it all follows the logic of its own world. Everything is basically explained, it's just that the explanations are crazy, so I'll leave it alone. What I will not leave alone is that this movie takes place in the future, by accident. Yeah, now are you on board? This is where shit hits the fan, and it's all because of the Beatles. In one of this movie's most baffling choices, Now and Then, the final Beatles song released last year, keep that in mind, is used many times. Sam Rockwell's character, the bearded guy, says it was his and Ellie's couple song when they were dating. Now these two have not been dating in 5 years due to Ellie thinking she is a different person, which we'll get to. This means that Now and Then, released last year, was the couple song for these two 5 years ago or more. Meaning, no joke, no lie, this movie has to take place in the future, 2028 at the earliest. Anyways, no slowing down, because now let's talk about the twist. There's actually 2 twists. The first one being that Ellie's parents are not her actual parents. Her mom and dad are villains, with her dad, Bryan Cranston, being the main villain. And also, Ellie isn't Ellie, she's Rachel, an operative for the network that went into a coma right after learning some important information. To get that information, the fake parents got her to write about it by hypnotizing her, I guess. And this plan is just wild. I can understand pulling the fake parent shtick on Rachel herself, but how did this work on the hospital staff? Sure, you can say that these people can easily make fake IDs, but they never actually say that in the movie. They also never once address what happened to Rachel's parents. Are they dead? Are they kidnapped? I don't know. Somehow, some way, these mischievous villains pulled this dastardly scheme. And to be real, I don't even know why. They could have just had someone tell her she was an orphan. But instead, they spent 5 years pretending to be this girl's parents. Incredible. Also, yes, Rachel's name is in fact Argylle, except it's not. It's Argylle, which annoys me so much. If you're gonna be corny, at least lean into it. For simplicity's sake, I'm gonna keep calling her Ellie. So after this, the gang ends up on a boat, and they stay there for basically the rest of the movie. During this time, Ellie shoots Sam Rockwell, knowing she's shooting him in a 2-inch part of his heart that won't kill him, which is a hell of a risk to take even if you are a skilled shooter. After that, she sends the network trade secrets to Sam Jackson and defeats the villain, with her mom getting bonked on the head by a thought-to-be-dead friend, Kira, whose book counterpart got about 3 lines of dialogue at the beginning before being blasted. Turns out, she survived in the exact same way as Sam Rockwell's character, then wandered her way onto the boat in hopes of saving them eventually. Good for you, Kira. Unfortunately, the movie's almost over, so all you get to do is sit in the background of shots while the important characters talk to each other. Really happy you made it out okay. But wait, this movie has one last fucking trick up its sleeve, so it decides to introduce the real Argylle in the last scene, an actual guy. I don't know how this makes any sense. I don't know how the movie can make this make sense, but I'm okay with that. This story is batshit crazy, and I'm happy to be done talking about it. Let's do the visuals and editing. If I'm being completely honest, I think this is my least favorite aspect of the whole movie. I mentioned the transitions before, and they really are ridiculous. The amount of times you zoom into a script Ellie is writing to go into a scene is egregious. This could be cool if done once, but it just ends up seeming like they're trying too hard. There's also a lot of details with the cat that bother me visually. Most of the time it just sits around in Ellie's backpack, weirdly looking like one of those moving Harry Potter paintings, but when they let it out, it's just awful. There's a moment when the cat gets flown into the air and it goes straight into the screen, and it actually reminded me of a Disney Channel original movie. Continuing on, Henry Cavill as Argylle will sometimes just appear in the real world to replace Sam Rockwell, and it's just really weird. They do it so much that it becomes disorienting during the action scenes, and whether purposeful or not, it makes it impossible to follow what's going on. I'm not familiar with Matthew Vaughn's style, so I can't tell if fans of his would just be in abject horror to hear me talk about it this way, or if they'd agree and say that this isn't up to par with his usual stuff. In the end, I don't think the visuals really create any new problems with the movie, but they make every single one that already existed worse. I'm going to end by touching on the comedy aspects. They're not actually the worst. While there are lots and lots of jokes that do not work, there are some really good actors here that can sell their lines. Bryan Cranston is doing a pretty good job here. His hammiest, goofiest scenes usually got laughs out of me. Plus, while Sam Rockwell can't carry this movie on his back, he's charming and he's got some funny one-liners. Outside of that, though, much of the humor makes the already long-ass runtime of this movie feel like a total slog. I feel like some of the jokes rely on me actually caring about the characters, and I just don't, so they never land. So even that isn't a total win. All in all, Argylle is a mess of a film that felt doomed before I even saw the opening logos. It very much feels like a coworker's favorite movie, or a movie you would only watch on an airplane due to how simply insignificant it feels. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with Matthew Vaughn's direction. I just know he did that one scene in The Kingsman that inspired that one scene in Family Guy, and I've seen that. So because I'm not familiar, I'm just going to consider this a bad example of his work, and hope that if I ever do check out some of his other stuff, I like it much more. But if this really is reflective of his style, I might not end up being a fan. I'm honestly very sorry if this video ended up being hard to follow, but the truth is, so was the movie. It's baffling, it's weird, I don't get it, and I'll probably forget about it very quickly. With garbage CGI, awful needle drops, and shitty editing, Argylle ends up feeling like a very fake movie. And for that, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10, meaning as usual, the year is off to a bad start. We'll be getting even worse next week with the marvelous Madam Web, a movie I am unironically very excited for. I'll be releasing my review for that next Saturday as usual, so subscribe if you want to see it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye now.